Hey everyone, Tactics here, bringing you my second last Keystone Master walkthrough, this time with the other side. As with my previous videos, I'll be going over the route that we used, as well as giving you guys some tips and tricks to complete the key in time. I'll also be playing this video at 1.25 times speed, just so this video doesn't get extremely long, but if you want to see the VOD for yourself, or you want the link to the Mythic Dungeon Tool route we used, I'll put both in the description below. With that said, let's just get right into the dungeon here. Now for the other side, this first pull is actually one of the spookier ones in the dungeon. We do pull it all together, of course. We don't skip those first two. We group them all up. And what you're going to want to do here is see the scribe cast from Risen Cultists. That's where everyone's kicks are going to go. So I think there's 3 in this pull. 1, 2, and then 1 back here. And so you just want to kind of keep your kicks on cooldown for this pull, getting those scribe casts. Now they do have another cast, which you'll see there, Dark Lotus, I believe it's called. And that just spawns these swirlies. I wouldn't kick that because that's completely avoidable damage and you just want to stay out of it. Here, aside from those scribes, you just want to make sure you are enraged dispelling the warlord whenever he gets it up, because if he has that up while he has low health, he will not die. So while he is enraged, he will not die. So you got to make sure you dispel that immediately, not only for that, but also to save your tank some extra damage. For that pull, we also Bloodlust on both Fortified and Tyrannical, and as you'll see, that it's for the timing of the Bloodlust. If you Bloodlust that first pull every time, you will have Lust up again for Hakkar when you do Hakkar. And then we're moving on to our second platform up here. There is only one Scribe caster, Cultist, sorry, right there. So he has his Scribe again, which is actually lower priority than all of the Death Speaker kicks pretty much. We just have one person kicking the Cultist here, and then we have the rest of the people kicking this Death Speaker. The other thing to keep in mind is the Death Speaker's frontal cone, which you'll see in a second here. He's going to channel it at a random player there. It was at the Hunter, and it's just a big cone. You want to make sure you dodge it. For the most part on Fortified weeks, especially on higher Fortifieds like 15s and up, that will actually just one-shot you rather than being a knockback that you can outplay a little bit by using like something like Disengage or Blink or something. You just won't have the opportunity. It'll just kill you. You want to make sure you are dodging those. And so we are actually going to go past Hakkar's room a little bit. And we're going to go down and we're going to pull a few trash packs in front of the Mechagon area. Now, the spirits are especially scary on Fortified week. And so we do actually use the urn here, as you'll see, to interrupt his rage. So that's a little trick you can do just to drastically reduce the party damage going out. So we pull him up next to the urn. We don't want to stand too close to the urn just because we don't want too many masks spawning on the urn, so it stops us from actually pressing it. But also note that any form of CC actually immediately gets rid of these. So like I'll Disorienting Roar there and they just immediately die. And he started the mask cast as soon as the enraged spirit starts their rage cast. You do that, your party will take 1 to 2 ticks of damage, but it won't be lethal. And you'll be able to kill him before he does much else. Now from here, the next pack will spawn your Prideful. So we tend to just take these small guys because they're much easier. And we'll kill them and it'll spawn our Prideful that we'll deal with, and then we'll pull these 2 guys afterwards. Be careful of that Enraged Spirit Pat, you really don't want him. Pulling an extra mob here will also screw up your Prideful for Hakkar a little bit. You just be aware he pats like halfway down the hall, so it's a little spooky. We're a little restricted on space here. Oh, yeah, this is a little awkward. I probably should have pulled these mobs a little bit further just to drop the Sanguine Puddles up here and give us significantly more space. I think this gets a little bit spooky. Maybe we get it okay? Yeah? Oh yeah, we have a death or 2, yeah. Yeah, that's probably, we should have had a little bit more space here. And we didn't have too many cooldowns up, unfortunately, but yeah, I think we popped a lot for that. It's okay, though. This Prideful is not super great anyways in general. I think for a lot of the hierarchies, you'll actually probably see this Prideful happen, but then you'll skip the Prideful. if any of you have seen that. But for 15s and stuff, you don't need to worry about doing that kind of shenanigans. Just double Warlord pack here, so make sure you have an Enrage the spell on at least one of them, but preferably both like we did here. And of course, just not standing in these whirlwinds. And then from here, we actually go back to the Hakkar wing, and this sets us up for having a good Pride. I'm just running all the way back, and yeah, that is actually one of the reasons the timer on DOS was a little tight before the recent buffs. It's just all this running is kind of... So there's a lot of travel time in this dungeon. Okay. Alright, I screw up this pull a little bit here. So, the Hexer was almost in an ideal spot. In an ideal world, you actually get this padding Hexer when he's like over here, and you add him to this pack. That's good. That's really good. It's not the end of the world if you don't do that. I got a little greedy here, and I tried to do it, and I actually pulled a little bit extra, and that kind of messed up this pull a little bit. It makes it significantly more dangerous. One thing here, these Devoteds, you want to make sure these casts literally never go off. So you want to make sure you have some sort of CC for them. I get them here with my Disorient before the cast goes off, and then they have to restart their whole cast. And then they just die. Now, yes, normally you would only have the Priest and maybe the Hexer, so you would have a kick for the Priest's heal, and you would have a kick for the Hexer's Hex, and you would have a kick for the Hexer's heal. But now we have two Priests, a Deathwalker, which is chunking me. It's just a little spooky. We end up having, I think, a couple deaths here because of that. So yeah, don't get too greedy with pulling that Hexer. If he's there, great. If he's not, it's not the end of the world. So don't worry too much about it. Yeah, because in an ideal world, you get that Hexer because it makes the next pull significantly easier, because I think there's still a Hexer in that pull anyway, so two Hexers is a little spooky to deal with one pull, but you are using the urn there, and just having a Deathwalker in this pull is not good. Yeah, you really want that urn for the Deathwalkers, and the extra Priest as well. It's just too many kicks, really, for this one pull, whereas, like, in the next pull you'll see here, I mean, there's significantly less now, there's just a Deathwalker, but normally there'd be a second Deathwalker and a Priest. You drag him right here, we have the urn. It will blow up. The Devoted would die without anyone having to interrupt them. And then, like, the Deathwalkers would all, like, everyone would be half health here, right? So, yeah. That last pull, a little messy. Just don't do what I did. You'll be fine. From here, we just have one more pack, and that pack will spawn the Pride on the last enemy killed, so you don't have to worry about cleaving it down together. It's just the last enemy killed will spawn that Pride. And it is a little spooky for your tanks and melee just because of the double Deathwalker. You just want to make sure you have kicks on the Priest heal, and then the Hexer's Hex and heal. And if you have extra kicks, you can dump into the discharge, but it's not the end of the world. Any kind of CCs, once they're channeling Bladestorm, does interrupt it, as you see there. The Disorienting Roar interrupts the Bladestorm. Stuns would work as well. Fears. Maybe they're Fear Immune, actually. I don't remember. But yeah, we're just killing this pack, and that brings us right into the Prideful. Yeah, and as you see here, our Lust is 2 minutes still. So our Lust will end up coming up after we kill the Prideful and then move into the boss. So that is the reason for the timing on that Lust at the beginning. You don't want to delay that Lust. That Lust needs to go immediately just so you can get this Lust for the boss here. And that means you go into a car with Bloodlust, you go into a car with Prideful, you go into a car with all of your cooldowns up. Yeah, and that normally means, though, especially on like a 15 or higher, if you're saving all of your offensive cooldowns, that means you need to blow defensive cooldowns. So you'll see here, our healer is popping a lot. We have Rally on the Warrior going off, and then we have personal defensives going off as well as soon as we get lower on the Pride. And we move into Hakkar. Hakkar is interesting. So I would say the number one thing you want to make sure is you are nuking those Sons of Hakkar as soon as they spawn. So as you'll see here, as soon as they spawn, we have a stun on them, and then we nuke them down. So we have 2 melee, so we have 1 on each side of the boss here, just to avoid these bloods. Sun comes in, he's stunned, he gets swapped to, he's dead. Next sun comes in, I stun it, he gets swapped to, he's dead. Alright, so that's what you want to do. Now this blood barrier. So, this actually does gain health based on the damage done. So if you pop a DRs for this blood barrier, this shield will be smaller. Just to keep that in mind. And yeah, we keep these ads killed as soon as we can. We think we barely don't beat the second barrier. But again, we're just keeping focus on these suns as much as we can. Yeah, we're going to barely not hit this barrier. And so we just all hard swapped the suns here. Since we didn't make we were barely off that little DPS check to beat that second barrier. And then after the suns are dead, we just focus Hakkar. I think we also stop and kill this sun. Or do we? No, we ignore it. Yeah, boss was almost dead anyways. And then we just have a lot of travel time as we run towards Mechagon. Yep, running towards Mechagon. Is it? Yeah. Okay. Dental drill, pretty straightforward. Just want to LOS his haywire ability. Nothing crazy there. And we have the little robot dudes. Oh yes. We didn't fully commit to killing it, so someone died. That's okay though. And then this pack is pretty scary on Fortified Week. So I'll pull those just to Ursul's them, and they'll be in the corner forever, so we don't need to worry about them. And then you just need to be careful. This metallic jaws is apparently an anti-kite mechanic, so be careful of that. If your tank backs up a little bit, it will just hit the closest melee. I think you will see it here. Our warrior gets insta-gived by the bite. But yeah, aside from that, you just want to keep it. Yeah, there it is. You just want to keep as many kicks as you can on these clients. And then that will just mitigate the damage here. It's a pretty scary pull for melee in general. A lot of damage going out. And you always just want to make sure those stuns get out. Especially never hitting your tank, but... Did you bite him again? Dog was not happy. And then you're just going through. You have another dental drill. So there's an LOS spot back here. There's an LOS spot up there, which we use. Alright, so ranged are back there. Melee are up here. The range can even come through here. And then you'll see there's another pack of the bombs with the lubricator. So I'll do the same thing I did with the previous set of bombs. I'll pull them and then I'll Ursul's them. And you'll see with my positioning on the Ursul's here, I actually Ursul's such that the lubricator is not in it, just so he comes to us a little bit faster. We're just getting this drill down, and then you'll see that. And so I pull them, drop the Ursul's, and the lubricator is still out of it. And lubricators, these guys are a little bit spooky. So they have the lubricate, which is also like that hit reduction and the big damage. So you want to make sure that it's kicked. And then they have the self-heal, which is another thing you want to make sure is kicked. Now they are immune to pretty much all CC but stuns, I believe. So you can use a stun as like a pseudo interrupt if you're running out of interrupts, because there are a decent amount of interrupts here. You see we stun that one at low health and kill it. Then we focus on the next one. This is the engineering button I've talked about a few times in the past. You can just press that if you're an engineer and this all dies. And then we just finish off these lubricators running through with no slimes. Now the next pack is a little bit spooky, especially on Fortified Week again. With the 3 slimes that will just chain cast at random targets. So what you'll see here is I'll mark them and we'll just be calling kicks out. And getting as many kicks, any stuns, any kind of CC we can to just mitigate the amount of party damage going out. Yeah, because that was 2 that picked 1 target and he almost died. So it's It's a little RNG, but also like it's just get as many kicks and interrupts, anything you can do to stop a cast. You ring a piece there. We use right disorients, knockbacks, all those things. As many preventions you can do on these spell casts is ideal. And this is going to go straight into the Prideful here. Right, and then we'll have the Prideful for the beginning of Millhouse. Yeah, so it's a pretty uneventful Prideful. Not too much going on here. This is probably... yeah, no. We'll just finish him off. And then, so what we're going to do on Millhouse and Millificent is that we have the Prideful buff for the beginning part. We obviously have to run through this gauntlet a little bit here. You lose about 20 seconds, I'd say, of the Prideful. And we'll go in. I believe we do pop cooldowns on Millhouse here. The number one thing you want to make sure you do is don't kill him. You cannot kill Millhouse here. You want to make sure, and killing him is 10% HP. So you want to make sure he is not dead. So you pop your stuff, but do not kill him. Crystals here, we're soaking, and for those of you that didn't see there, I'll show it on the next laser. But 2 players are going to get a red arrow above their head. So you see 1, 2. They're going to draw a Z-shaped laser between them after a couple seconds. So you want to make sure Millhouse is between that, and it will stun him. As you'll see, they line up, so Millhouse is in between them. The laser comes out. It will also stun anyone else that stands in that. So you do want to make sure as soon as it starts drawing, you move out of it. And this is the only way to prevent Diabolical Doom. You get that little laser down, stun him, and he doesn't cast it. Similar with Millificent here. You see we tank in the middle. We kind of spread out a little bit so we can get bombs. We do Lust Millificent because it just came back, and it'll let us catch up a bit on damage. And then we have the Shadow Fury. So 1 player will get Shadow Fury. And it's just a purple circle that you want to try and get Millificent in. It will stun them and anyone in the circle, including the boss. So whenever Shadow Fury comes out, you want to try and get Millificent in it right there. And then for Rocket Chicken, that is the only way to kick it. So you want to make sure your Shadow Fury person is on them for that. You'll still take a couple ticks of damage as you see here. Like it gets a little spooky. And then they'll swap. And now you're good to kill Millhouse. Because I believe we got her down to like 40%-ish. And that's enough to kill her in 1 phase. Yeah, 36%. So we have more than enough damage now to kill her before she rocket chickens again. And so it's perfectly fine for Millhouse to die. But that initial phase, you want to make sure, no matter what your damage is, you don't want to kill Millhouse. You want to make sure he gets... He is still alive, so that means above 10% health. Otherwise, you're just going to die to the rocket chicken unless you can also burst Millificent before. But yeah, that gets a little bit sketchy. Here we have, okay, we have the another Enraged Spirit, but this time no urn. So this guy's a bit spooky. What we end up doing here is just popping a ton of defensives and healing through it. I think we like rally and we bunch of healer cooldowns. I think our Hunter Turtles as well, just to mitigate damage. But it's very sketchy on high fortified. So just definitely be careful. Like I said before, you're probably in the higher groups, you'd skip this Prideful, the very first Prideful, and then you could use that to kill this spirit efficiently, I would say. But obviously for 15s and stuff, you could heal through it like we did. We rallied, we double healer cooldowned, and then we defensived, and we were okay. And we're able to kill him just as the second rage is beginning to tick. We then have another decently big pull, but of course there is an urn, so we pulled this entire platform on top of this urn, so you just need to watch the kicks on these far guys, as you'll see. I'll pull them in, they'll drag a little bit, they actually drag a significant amount, so you just need the 1 kick on the Death Speaker there, and they're all in range, and then they get earned. And you just need to watch, because immediately out of this stun, you'll see the Death Speaker will try and cone someone. There it is. So immediately it's just up there, so just be ready to move. And yeah, it's a fairly straightforward pull after that. The urn helps out a lot. Very, very helpful. And then we go through into the Ardenweld area of the other side. So more travel time actually. There's the little gauntlet. Yeah, let's skip the gauntlet, shall we? Alright, and then the Ardenweld's actually full of big pulls. So what we do here is we pull these two together. Watch these three here. These three here we never want to pull. Just because it screws up percent a little bit. So just try your best to stay in like the left half of this platform when you come in initially. And then aside from that, just watch these curses that go out. You see there I'm dispelling them. But it just means you have to keep jumping. When you get close to 10 stacks, you will get stunned, or slept, I believe slept. So you just want to keep jumping to make sure you never get to 10 stacks. It's not terrible for melee to deal with, but I do try and dispel them as much as I can. And if you have a curse dispelling healer, that makes it a little easier. From there, we go into like a double / triple pull. So as you see here, you have to wait for the pat, but we'll grab these two together again. I'll slowly move back to the left here. And then whenever I can, I will add the padding cranes. You'll see they're the guys that run around this entire zone. There they are right there. And then this will be the prideful. So I'll grab them as they're coming here. They won't pull anything extra. And then I will just work my way backwards because of the sanguine, of course. And we will just slowly kill them, and then we'll get the pride spawn and deal with that pride. Yeah, normally you wouldn't need this much movement. This movement is strictly because of the sanguine. And I make my way back just so we have more room to deal with that prideful, because it'll be kind of awkward to deal with the prideful up here, right? You get what happened in that first prideful. So we just move our way back a little bit, give ourselves some more space, and not accidentally butt pull those guys in the corner there. And then we will get our prideful and deal with that before we do our big pull. Now, because of sanguine, it kind of splits this pull up slightly. So we'll deal with this, and you'll see so there are these hatchlings here. We do pull these hatchlings. Normally we would just pull them and keep running. Because it's sanguine, I believe they do drop sanguine, so we just kill them first. Let them drop their sanguine over here, because otherwise all the other mobs are going to be stuck in a sanguine, as you'll see. So we just make sure we interrupt these frightening cries. And yeah, they do drop sanguine. And then we pull all these birds. This includes the matriarch. I will explain that in a second. We pull all this stuff, and we pull the stealth pack right here, and we drag it on top of this urn, and we nuke it down. Now, this pull depends on your group comp. The reason why we pull the matriarch instead of pulling the 2-pack up in this top left and the other stealth pack in the bottom left here, sorry, down here, there's like a stealth pack down here. The reason we don't do that is because of our group comp. We have a hunter, we have a monk. Those guys are target capped, with the exception of like Whirling Dragon Punch, right? So the ideal is like even less than this, right? Their ideal is like 6-ish, but like if you have a fire mage, if you have a boomkin, yeah, you take those extra pulls. But like I said, you have to add 5 mobs, I believe, or 4 mobs in place of this one mob to get the same number, same percent. Granted, those mobs are easier to kill. That's true, they have less health. They're a little less scary than this matriarch, as you'll see the matriarch will buff these, but we deal with this by kiting, essentially. So if you have uncapped group, you can avoid this matriarch, and you can just pull those little packs right there, and it'll be much safer for your tank. But as you'll see here, it's not the biggest deal for us, especially since we have a Ursouls for me. You'll see I'll drop it there, and then I just make enough space, and I don't have to worry about these enraged ads. Normally we would also binding this, but of course that's a little bit troll on Sanguine Week. And yeah, that goes quite easily for us with our group comp. But again, like Fire Mages, Boomkins, those kind of uncapped classes, you can add these extra. Like I think it's these two over here, and then there's some stealth guys you can pick up as well. And that pull's probably easier, but just because of our capped situation, we opt to go with the fewer target pull. And so same to here, there is a hatchling here. So we pull it over here to drop the initial Sanguine over in this area, and then we pull a little bit more. Since nothing is going to die before this enrage goes off, we do use binding here, and it's perfectly fine. And I can stand out of range of it, just because nothing is actually going to die in that binding. And from there, yeah, it's a pretty straightforward pack from there. We just finish it off. And then the next pull, we also try and do a double pull, so we'll drag this pack that's right there on top of the pat, the additional stags, and we'll just cleave that down, and that will spawn our Prideful. Not much happening here. Yeah, there it is. We're just pulling that, cleaving it down. Again, this trash doesn't really do anything noticeable aside from the spores. Then we just have our Prideful. And note again, we have Bloodlust up once more, so we are Bloodlusting this boss. This boss, I think, is much more difficult than the final boss. So we definitely want to lust here. So we just lust and burst. So we have 3 melee. So what we're going to do is that Arcane Lightning. This is the lightning debuff. I see a lot of people misunderstanding how this works, not sure how it works fully. So it bounces to the nearest player after the duration, after it expires. And so see here, I'll actually show when it bounces to me, because I believe you bounce it to me first. Right, there it is. Okay, so there's the lightning debuff. That's the one that bounces. And it'll put this debuff on you here, the stacking vulnerability debuff. That's what it puts on you. And so what it basically means is that you're going to be taking increasing damage over the course of having this dot, and that you need 3 people to bounce it, otherwise you will refresh this vulnerability, which is very bad for everyone but the tank. The tank can live it if worst case, but also you don't want to do that either. So ideally you bounce it between 3 people. And so we just rotate. We go to the monk next, and the monk goes back to the warrior, and then this will be off by the time it comes back to me. Now, of course, we are going up. The warrior is staying down with Spell Reflect. I believe that's how he's doing that, in case you guys want to know. I believe he can Spell Reflect pretty much every one of that one. And then we're just continuing to pass that lightning between us and melee. And then dealing with these jumps. I think we end up screwing up one of these jumps somewhere. Maybe it's one of the later ones. Yeah, I think we jump a little bit too early. So you want to make sure when you're the individual bomb, you jump like when the thing is more than halfway done. Yeah, I think we jump a little early here and it ends up detonating on us. So as a note, I believe the priest dodged it with Levitate, I want to say. Maybe he didn't dodge it. Yeah. So like, it's a little unfortunate there because we have the couple deaths, as you saw here. I'll rewind it. Yeah, so we jumped just a little too early. We had a couple deaths. I get them both up, but the traps have already spawned. So the problem here is that there's now 1 less trap. Or 2 less traps. So the warrior's fine. He's going to Spell Reflect like he does every time. We have the hunter turtle here. And then, yeah, we're able to get through that okay with the priest spirit. So we got a little sketchy there at the end, but yeah, it was clean for the most part until right at the end. So just make sure when you're jumping up, you're at least half duration on the bomb, if not a little bit less, and that does make life a little bit easier. Aside from that, though, yeah, the immunities do work. Ice Block, of course, would work. Turtle works. The Divine Shield, the personal bubble for Paladins would work. And of course, Spell Reflect does work. So for you warriors out there, Spell Reflect's pretty good. And from there, we're just continuing our run back to the final boss. Now for this guy, we do split up our group, so we send one DPS to 3 of the portals, and then the healer and the tank to the 4th. This is on Grievous, so it is a little spooky. You want to make sure you're topped up before you go, otherwise Grievous will probably kill you. And you just want to make sure that you are killing your spirit. That is the single most important thing to do. Do note that those spirits' health are appearing to scale with Tyrannical now. I don't believe they did initially, but it was kind of patched in, and they do now. So they have a ton of health on Tyrannical weeks. You'll want to pop all of your cooldowns on the spirit. So not here. You see all of our cooldowns are being held in the top left. No one is popping stuff that's not going to be back up for the spirits. And we'll just do this little dance here. Make sure everyone is topped up before going to their platform. Alright. See here, we all split up, and we all have cooldowns, and we all blow literally everything to kill this guy. The scariest platform is going to be your healer tank one. Just because the DPS race is tough, especially on Tyrannical weeks. We make it decently fine here on a fortified week, but like it is pretty sketchy on Tyrannical weeks. To the point where I would almost recommend your healer also pop a DPS potion to try and get through it. But don't forget to click that totem there. And then ideally, you've killed all 4 spirits in just one phase, and then you just stay in this platform phase for the rest of the fight. Missing a totem significantly slows down this boss because you have to go through that entire intermission phase again. So definitely recommend saving cooldowns and just bursting those spirit guys. That is the way to go for sure. And then it just makes it so you sit in this phase a little bit longer, but frankly it's better than having to redo that entire intermission again. But yeah, aside from that, that is pretty much it for the other side, guys. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe for more content like it. If you have any questions at all regarding this dungeon, or regarding Guardian Druid, or just tanking in general, feel free to drop a comment below, and I'll answer as best I can. Or you can come ask me live on my Twitch at Tactics. That is it for now, though. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.